Therapy in cinematic form, for what it's worth. Clerks 3, holy fuck, they made 3 of these things, is brought to us by director Kevin Smith and stars Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, and Trevor Fairman. Dante, Elias, Jay, and Silent Bob are enlisted by Randall after a heart attack to make a movie about the convenience store that started it all. So for those of you that don't know, I am a huge Clerks fan. My dad took me and my sister to see it when I was at the wee age of 14. And at 14, I fucking loved this shit, and I have ever since then. In 2006, we got the sequel, Clerks 2, and honestly, running up to that film, I didn't think it was going to be any good. I didn't think it was going to be able to emulate the comedy for the first one, and to a degree I was right. It didn't emulate the comedy of the first one. It kind of did its own thing, but I was still on board. These were characters that I really enjoyed, and it was still really funny. It was a different kind of comedy. This was a different Kevin Smith by 2006, but I was still enjoying it, and I really did like that movie. The first one, though, is still my favorite. So here we are in 2022, and now we're getting the sequel to that sequel, Clerks 3. And honestly, running up to this one, I was a bit worried that it wasn't going to be able to emulate the comedy from the first one and the third one, and I was right. It doesn't emulate the comedy from the first one or the second one. It does something totally different, but unfortunately, this time, that totally different did not quite work for me. That's right, I'm not gonna bullshit you around. We're gonna jump right into this thing. I just didn't like this movie. Now, much like with Clerks 2, this is a very different Kevin Smith than we had in 2006 and in 1994. This is post-heart attack Kevin Smith. This is also Kevin Smith whose movies, as of late, at least in my humble opinion, haven't been his best. If you saw my review of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, you know that that movie didn't really do it for me either. But Clerks 3 even more so doesn't. It isn't even that kind of comedy. There are parts of this movie that I don't even really consider comedy. But I think that that is kind of what Smith was going for. This movie kind of comes across as therapy, and I think that that's great that Kevin Smith had this life-changing event. He was able to better himself as a person overall, and he used making this movie as kind of a therapeutic experience. That's wonderful. I hope it did something for him. Unfortunately, he made a movie, and a movie is meant to be seen by other people, especially when you put it out for the masses to see, and it just doesn't work for everybody else, at least not in the realms of the Clerks universe. This movie's just not funny. There were very few moments that I had a mild chuckle at best. It was actually pretty shockingly unfunny. That really smart observational humor that made Kevin Smith famous isn't really here. There is some observations made and comments are made of those things, but none of it's really funny. There's a couple of sight gags here or there that are kind of chuckle-worthy, like I said, but that's about it. Also, there's some choices that are made with some characters and some things within this universe that this film takes place in that didn't really hit for me either. In fact, some of these choices really turned me off and left a really bad taste in my mouth. And I understand where Kevin Smith was going with this story, I just don't think it works with these characters or in this world. Also, the end of the movie, and no, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I am gonna tell you how I felt about it, and that was not very happy. There are things that transpire in the end of this movie that really, if you start looking at them under even the slightest bit of magnification, you're gonna see, holy shit, that's really fucked up. And not in the way the movie wants it to be fucked up. It's kind of like, wow, you made that decision and this thing happened and there are repercussions from that, and I don't really feel like you went into that, but you kind of should have. Honestly, there really weren't many decisions made with this story that I could get behind. This just didn't seem like Clerks to me, even though it did have all of the original characters in it. It just wasn't what I was looking for. It's not what I want out of a Clerks movie. And maybe that's me. Maybe everybody else will love it, but all I can speak for is myself, and me, I not just didn't like it, I really didn't like this movie. Now, beyond the fact that this comedy just wasn't funny at all, pretty much, the performances here. Now, the performances in Clerks have never been great, but it's been okay. Everything else made up for it. In this movie though, they're pretty damn bad. Now whether that's that the performances are actually any worse than the others or the fact that the comedy is not there to make up for it, I don't know. All I can say is that while watching this, some of them are like shockingly bad. Especially the main characters. Jeff Anderson and Brian O'Halloran have never been what I would consider thespians, or great thespians at least, but I think the lack of performance was kind of made up for by the comedy like I said earlier, but here they don't have that to fall back on. O'Halloran in particular is pretty damn bad here. And while everyone else in the cast is fine, I guess, nobody really stands out as good. Guys, I could go on and on about this all day, but what's the point in beating a dead horse? It's just not funny. The movie, not beating a dead horse. Not that that's funny. It's not funny either, but you know what I mean. The acting is pretty damn bad. The comedy's pretty non-existent. The story goes places I just can't follow, and the ending kind of pissed me off. The movie's just not good, and by not good, I mean it's pretty damn close to an absolute dumpster fire. But given that it did have at least a handful of small chuckles, I'll say that at best, check this one out on USA Up All Night.
It's not worth it!
Hi, I'm Gilbert Gottfried.
Hi, it's Yolanda on USA Up All Night.
It's so big. It's just not worth it!
It really pains me to my core to see where this franchise has gone, because Kevin Smith has given us some absolutely fantastic movies over the years, but this ain't one of them. So there it is, guys, my review of Clerks 3. If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you want to help out the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below and my YouTube memberships, which are now open, and become a jarhead and get some of the awesome benefits that go along with that, like these guys, and possibly join my top tier and become a bad motherfucker like my man Silverlock and Marge G. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Hoboken.
What the hell is this?
I added a scene where you get shot.
I'm not letting you kill me off in the third act. What if there's a sequel?
A sequel? What am I, a hack?
So real quick, I want to talk about the end of the movie, and no, I'm not going to spoil it. However, I will say that I do have a twice weekly show called The Almost Awesome Show, and in about a week from now, when the embargo lifts, I will be talking spoilers about this movie on there. It won't be a long discussion, but there are some things that I do want to discuss, so check that show out. But I did want to just say real quick that some of the things that the movie does in the very end, and if you've seen the movie, you know the thing I'm talking about. Well, yeah, that did bother me. It's not the thing that really bothered me. What really bothered me is what happens as a result of that we don't really see, but I just couldn't stop thinking about it. How these events in the end of the film affect other people, given the knowledge they would know, not necessarily us the viewer, is just fucking stupid. What in the hell are you doing to these characters, Kevin Smith? You're giving them like fucking PTSD.